Okay. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to share this presentation with you all. So welcome, you are here for the presentation for Fraternity and Sorority Life, also known as Greek Life, and we're really excited for you to join us today. Before we get super into our presentation, we do want to take a minute or two to go over some Zoom features for you all, just so that you know how to connect with us today. So if you have questions at any point during our presentation, we would love for you to use the Q&A question and answer feature where you can ask us questions. You'll be able to see and hear all of us as presenters, but attendees will not be able to use audio or video. We will use the chat function to interact with you if we have any announcements or things to share with you in that way. This presentation will also be recorded so that we can share it out later with folks as well. And then if you have any questions, the Q&A feature will be the best way to use that. And this presentation is mostly an opportunity for us to share with you information about fraternity and sorority life. We will have plenty of time at the end to answer the questions that you have, and we also have a student panel that is willing to answer those questions as well. So without further ado, my name is Vicky Gerentis. I serve as a student engagement coordinator in the Office of Student Involvement, and my primary responsibilities are advising the Panhellenic Council as well as the Interfraternity Council.
Hello everyone, my name is Kira Taylor. I am also a student engagement coordinator within.
Kira, I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear her.
Oh, okay. I'll keep going. I hope some people can hear me. But yes, I
hear you. Okay. If folks can hear Kira, hang on. Maritza said she can hear you. Okay, well, I don't hear you, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay, but
just go for it.
I primarily advise our National Panhellenic Council and our United Sorority Fraternity Council, and I'm happy to be with you all today.
All right, very quickly, I just want to confirm that our attendees can hear you, just in case. If it's just me, that's fine. But folks, if you're attending our presentation, I have opened up the chat feature. Can you hear Kira? All right, awesome. We will make do and we will figure it out so that we can make this work here for you. Thank you so much for letting us know. All right, and then I don't know if you talked about Nancy or not, but Nancy is the Associate Director in Student Involvement, and she's not present on the presentation here today, but you may come across her and get to interact with her as well. All right, Kira, I'm gonna let you do polls.
I'm muted. Sorry, I am muted this time, but I am unmuted now. Okay, so we're gonna do a couple polls to see who's on the call today. So, launching this poll. What is your affiliation with SJSU? Are you a new frosh, new transfer, continuing student, etc.? So, yes. Okay. All right. Got a couple more votes coming in. All right, I think we're almost to the 100% mark. Okay, so it looks like a good mix of you are new frosh or new transfers, so welcome. And we also have some continuing students that are interested in Greek life, so thank you for joining us. All right, we have one more question. And that question is, what brings you to this webinar? And you could click multiple answers for this one. Are you thinking about joining? Do you have friends or family who are part of fraternity sororities? You heard about it from orientation. Okay, got some votes coming in. All right. So it looks like everyone's thinking about joining fraternity sorority life, as well as you have heard about it through orientation or friends, as well as heard about our webinar from student involvement. So we're glad to have you. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Kira. While you were doing polls, I realized as a newbie, I guess, to Zoom that I had you muted, so that made a lot of sense. Thanks for being patient, everyone. All right, so just want to go over what this presentation will entail today. A reminder that it is recorded. We will review student organizations so that you have a sense of what student organizations at SJSU are about. We'll share some history of fraternities and sororities with you all. We'll give you an overview of our governing councils, as well as the organizations that are within them. And then we'll give you an organizational status update as well. Some things we'll review are facilities and housing. We'll go over expectations, and then we will get to our student panel that will get to answer your questions, as well as some questions that we have prepared for them.
All right, so getting to know our student clubs and organizations at SJSU. We have 400 student organizations and clubs, also known as recognized student organizations. This includes our academic and honorary groups, club sports, special interests, cultural and religious organizations, as well as fraternity and sorority life. As an RSO, as what we call it, but recognized student organization, your group has access to funding opportunities that aid in your chapter or organization operations, as well as when we are not in COVID, you have access to reserving spaces on campus for meetings and events. You also have access to campus advising through professionals all across our campus, and you are held to the California State University Organization Conduct Code. This code also includes non-discriminatory membership, which means you can join any organization regardless of how you identify. The only exception to this is fraternity and sorority life, where it is specific to gender when joining. For more information about any of our organizations we have at SJSU, you can find them all on the SAMI app, which is linked at the bottom of the screen.
All right, thanks, Kira. So y'all might be wondering, like, I've already been in classes, why are we doing a history lesson? But this is kind of some helpful information for you all so that you understand where fraternities and sororities come from and why they are at SJSU and why we support them. So just some background for you all. The very first students to attend colleges and universities in the United States were white, wealthy men. So when we look back at the things that they were studying and the subjects and curriculum that they had, we know that students were only learning what their professors knew and what their professors could teach them. They definitely didn't have access to the internet and access to things that we do today, so they were limited in the sense of what their scope of education looked like. The students began to form secret societies where they could discuss other literatures, other subjects, extracurricular activities. They kind of created their own networks for professional and intellectual development. And a clear indication of one's level of education was that they were knew Latin and Greek. So as these were the languages that were considered to be more important for educated people to know, they would use these languages kind of as a secret language. So many fraternities and sororities chose Greek letters because it could be used in secret and only the educated network understood it. The secrets of the organization could be understood if you knew Greek, and hence why we use the Greek letters. I said that a few times on purpose, but this is also why we refer to fraternity and sorority life as Greek life. So we also want to provide you with a brief understanding of how these different fraternal organizations emerged. So as you recall, the first students at universities and colleges were white men, which explains why men's fraternities were the first to emerge in the early 1800s. As you can imagine, most of those members of those fraternities were in fact white men. Co-eds, or women that began to attend the universities and colleges in the mid to late 1800s, quickly realized that they were not allowed to join these fraternities and that they needed a place to network and build skills as well. So sororities emerged. However, the term sorority was not actually coined until 1882 by Gamma Phi Beta. Some women's organizations still hold the name fraternity in their name as well, since that the term sorority was not coined until later. As more and more Americans began to attend colleges and universities, it became clear and clear that white men and women held privileges in these institutions that marginalized or minoritized groups did not. So in 1904, the first Black fraternity, Sigma Pi Phi, emerged in Philadelphia. Sigma Pi Phi, or the Boulets as they're often referred to, still exists today, and it is a very secret society that you need to be invited to. Many members of Sigma Pi Phi also hold membership within National Pan-Hellenic Council, or the Divine Nine organizations, which we will talk about later. And you will learn more about these groups shortly. About 20 years after the Boulets, the first Asian fraternity, Pi Alpha Phi, was founded at UC Berkeley in 1929, which is almost 100 years ago. And then the first Latino fraternities, so Phi Iota Alpha, was founded at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Troy, New York in 1931, which was only 89 years ago. So these are culturally based groups, and culturally based groups were founded later due to the fact that white men were the first people at colleges and universities. And so because of that, we have groups that are relatively young. For instance, Lambda Theta Phi, which is a Latino fraternity, was founded in 1975, which is only about 45 years ago.
All right, so some history pieces for SJSU specifically. So SJSU was founded in 1857, and the first Greek organization was Kappa Kappa Gamma, which was founded in 1896. SJSU has 124 years of fraternity sorority life. So the oldest active organization that is still on our campus is Alpha Phi. We also have 15 chapter facility houses that are within walking distance of our campus, and we have 4 governing councils, as you might have heard us mention a little bit before. So we have National Pan-Hellenic Council, United Sorority and Fraternity Council, Pan-Hellenic Council, and Interfraternal Council, which we'll dig into later.
All right, so my history lesson is usually a mouthful, so I start to run out of breath there, but I'm back. Thanks for the break, Kira. We also wanted to share with you that Greek letter organizations are not just the fraternities and sororities that we're discussing today. You may see Greek letters appear for other social organizations, honor societies, professional groups, co-ed groups. We just want to make the distinction that fraternities and sororities, there's a specific number and group of organizations that are considered fraternities and sororities for our purposes today, but there are other clubs and organizations on campus that also use Greek letters. And many of these groups have some similar recruitment processes or similar new member processes. So if you have questions about those organizations as well, we are happy to answer those from student involvement too. And now we will dive into our 4 governing councils. So I will kick us off here. Talking about the Interfraternity Council. So the Interfraternity Council is or IFC, is the governing body of currently 8 social men's fraternity organizations on campus. Most of these organizations have national ties to what's called the Northern Interfraternity Conference umbrella organization. Overall, the NIC is comprised of about 66 men's organizations. IFC chapters typically recruit new members at the start of both the spring and fall semesters. And while these events normally take place on campus, the events will look a little bit different for fall 2020 semester, as many of them and all of them will be virtual. Eligibility to join is always confirmed by our office. We'll talk about eligibility in a little bit. And note that some organizations may have some higher GPA expectations or different membership criteria that may also need to be met in order to be eligible to join.
All right. So the National Pan-Hellenic Council, also known as NPHC, or the nickname the Divine Nine, is home to our organizations that are historically Black and African American organizations. At SJSU, we have 8 of the 9 groups chartered. These organizations pride themselves on siblinghood, scholarship, and service. It's also important to note that in this council, we have 5 fraternities and 3 sororities. So they're both in this council. Each NPHC organization conduct a process called membership intake at different frequencies and times of the year, typically beginning in early spring or fall semester. When NPHC chapters are looking to do intake, usually they will host an informational meeting or an interest meeting where they will explain membership criteria. Each chapter has its own membership criteria set by their international organization. To gain a better understanding of these chapters, it is encouraged to attend their events, get to know the members, and follow the chapters on their social medias. You can also follow the council at SJSU NPHC. Tomorrow, we will be having an NPHC specific info session at 12 p.m. So you can check out our Weeks of Welcome page if you are looking to register and get to know a little bit more specifically about the organizations in this council.
Thank you, Kira. Moving on to the Panhellenic Council, also known as PHC. PHC is the governing body of 6 social women's sororities on campus. All 6 of these organizations are part of what's called the National Panhellenic Conference, or NPC, which is comprised of 26 women's organizations. PHC chapters recruit new members through primary formal recruitment process during the fall semester, and this is where all 6 chapters participate. This process requires registration, and it is an opportunity to explore all of the organizations through a mutual selection process. This fall 2020 semester will be a fully structured virtual process via Zoom over the weekend of September 11th through 13th. The link is now live for registration and will be open until September 10th at 12 p.m. You can find this information on the student involvement website as well. In the spring semester, there's also an opportunity to join through what's called continuous open bidding for Panhellenic chapters. However, not all of the groups will participate in the continuous open bidding process. Events for COB are more informal, and again, eligibility to join for both the fall and spring is always confirmed by our office. You are encouraged to engage with Panhellenic. They're very active on their Instagram and have been answering a lot of your questions. So if you want to follow them on Instagram, you can follow them at SJSU Panhellenic.
All right, so the United Sorority and Fraternity Council is an organizational body comprised of 18 chapters, 10 sororities, and 8 fraternities are in this council. There are local, regional, and national cultural interest organizations with the backgrounds of Asian American, Filipino American, Latinx-based, and multicultural background organizations. And anyone can join, whether you identify with one of these ethnic or cultural groups. Each USFC organization follows their own method for membership intake. Typically, many organizations will host informal events, recruitment, rush weeks, where you can get to know their members. Each chapter has its own membership criteria set by their chapter or the organization. And to gain a better understanding of these chapters, it is important to attend their events or get to know their members and follow their chapters on social media. And you can follow USFC on Instagram at SJSU_USFC. They also typically do intake around the beginning of fall or spring semesters, but every chapter decides per year what they are going to do. USFC will be hosting their info night where they will showcase their various organizations and learn a little bit more about details about each organization on September 3rd, I believe 6 to 7:30 p.m. So you can also find the information for that on our Weeks of Welcome page.
Thanks, Kira. And if y'all want to see what info night looked like in the spring semester, go check out their Instagram because that video is awesome. All right. Kira and I both shared about eligibility to join organizations in fraternity and sorority life. So we just want to make sure that you all are aware of what that eligibility looks like. So SJSU, particularly the Student Involvement Office, will verify that all students interested in joining a fraternity or sorority meet eligibility expectations. Eligibility means that you're an undergraduate student enrolled in at least 6 units for the term. So for this fall 2020 semester, you need to be enrolled in at least 6 units. Open enrollment does not meet the eligibility requirements. So if you are an open enrollment student, then you would not be eligible. If you are a current student at SJSU and you have taken classes already, you would need to have an SJSU cumulative GPA of 2.6. If you're a first-time freshman or a first-time transfer student and you do not have an SJSU cumulative GPA for this semester, that means that the eligibility does not apply. You are allowed to join these organizations. So just kind of know that information. We also have what's called the interest and eligibility form. We ask that everybody complete this form at least once, and this is how we can check your eligibility and then let the organizations know whether or not you are eligible as well. So we can pop that in the chat to you all, or you can also find it on our website.
All right, So earlier I shared a little bit about recognized student organizations and the privileges associated with being a recognized group. The following organizations on the screen are not recognized for the upcoming academic year due to inactivity, suspension, or expulsion. There are also unrecognized organizations that operate underground and have never been affiliated with SJSU. And so more information about these groups and their recognition and conduct can be found on our website, which is linked at the bottom of the screen. But just to clarify what's on the screen, for our USFC Council, Sigma Omicron Pi is suspended until December. Pi Alpha Phi is suspended until 2024. Lambda Phi Epsilon is expelled. For IFC, Alpha Epsilon Pi is inactive for this school year. Sigma Nu is suspended until 2023. Pi Kappa Alpha or Pike is suspended until 2027. In PHC, Sigma Gamma Rho is expelled indefinitely, so they will not return. And then fraternities that have never recognized or been affiliated with SJSU but are known to be operating and shouldn't be are Phi Kappa Tau and Psi Chi Omega. So it is important that you understand what this means, and it is really not encouraged, and there are consequences to interacting with unrecognized organizations.
Thank you, Kira. A little bit about our facilities and housing. If you have visited campus, you may have seen that some of our fraternities and sororities have housing facilities just off of campus or near campus. We do want to emphasize that not all of our organizations have official facilities or housing. So some of these facilities that you'll see located off campus, the options for living in them if you join an organization that has one is not guaranteed to all members. Additionally, it is not something that SJSU or student involvement manages. So each organization has its own house core or group that manages the house and the assignments and the rent. All facilities are expected to follow CDC guidelines, particularly at this time, as well as any local, state, or university guidelines to ensure the health and safety. If you have questions about facilities and housing, we are happy to answer those, as well as the groups that do have the houses would be the best resource to ask about their particular facility.
All right, so some expectations of being in fraternity and sorority life. You might find that presidents and chapter officers will meet with me or Vicky one-on-one, as well as with international headquarters or regional staff. So sometimes they will also make meetings or come and visit chapters as well. Greek education requirements per our office. We do have a potential new member experience that every new member for all orgs will go through, and that is on Canvas this year. We also have educational town hall sessions usually, but we are also doing an active member. So people who are not new to the community, but are still part of our community will do a Canvas course for this as well. And then in the spring, we will have a Title IX education training facilitated by our campus. Something else that is expected of you as a member of our community is academic excellence. So we talked about having a 2.6. It is highly encouraged that you uphold a 2.6, as well as seek leadership development, whether it's through our leadership programs on our campus or part of your organizations, as organizations do have a lot of leadership opportunities, whether it's becoming an officer or committee member in your chapter or doing something beyond regionally or nationally. So yes, lots of opportunities and expectations there. Next up, we have dues. So dues are really important to fraternity and sorority life. They help with the operations of all of our organizations, and some ways to know a little bit more about dues, especially for the organizations that you are seeking. It is important to ask the members and to do your research. There are sometimes scholarships for dues if you are in a position where you're not able to pay, but there are dues that are set by international and national organizations. So we as student involvement and SJSU, we do not control or collect dues. And dues are determined, like I said, by the organizations, and you might pay them through one of the platforms on the screen. So Omega Phi, Bill Highway, Greek Bill, and more. Things that dues pay for include experiences and activities. So sometimes that's leadership workshops, conferences, or retreats, apparel, materials and services, insurance, and facility expenses, and so much more.
All right, and then in terms of how we take a look at the accomplishments of our organizations, we have what's called the Standard of Excellence program. So all of our groups will be accredited and reviewed every year through the Standard of Excellence program, where they get to share with our office as well as the community all the things they have done within the calendar year. So these accomplishments and these awards that we award are given at the annual Greek banquet, which happens in the spring semester. We look at chapter performance and successes, and the chapters receive some form of a laurel status based on the accomplishments and the points received through the Standard of Excellence program. I know nobody indicated that they are a parent or a family member on our poll earlier, but we do want to make sure that whether it's through fraternity and sorority life or other clubs, organizations, and things you get involved in on campus, that you keep your family and your parents in the know about what you're doing and make them part of your experience at SJSU. There are benefits to joining any community on campus, particularly for fraternity and sorority life. It's a home away from home. There's leadership opportunities and just being able to have a stronger connection to your peers in the Spartan community. With that said, we have high expectations. I think we've shared a lot of things that we expect from our members and out of the new members that will join. And so anything that doesn't seem right probably isn't right. So if there's hazing, sexual assault, risk management issues, those things need to be reported. And we would encourage you to make sure that you are being able to report those things to us in our office or the other reporting structures that we've shared here. All right, Kira and I have rambled far too long, so we are going to ask our two panelists, Justin and Maritza, to get their cameras on and join us so that we can hear from them, and then we can get all of your wonderful questions answered. So as you all are listening to our questions here and answers, feel free to ask us more questions in the Q&A, because we will try our best to get to all your questions through this process. So without further ado, I'm going to let our two panelists introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, so my name is Maritza and I am a sister of Sigma Alpha Zeta Multicultural Sorority. I am a fourth year and I will be graduating next semester with a behavioral science bachelor's degree. And then a fun fact about me is that I'm from Los Angeles.
Hi everyone, I'm Justin. I'm a brother of Beta Theta Pi IFC fraternity. I currently serve as the VP of Philanthropy for IFC, and I also serve as the VP of Finance for my chapter. I am a fourth year, and I hope to graduate next year as a fifth year in computer engineering with a minor in mathematics. A fun fact about me is I'm from Sacramento.
All right, I'll kick it off with the first question. So what did you know about SJSU fraternities and sororities before you got here?
So before I got here, I personally didn't know much. All I knew was like what I would see on movies and on TVs and things like that. So when I first got here, my first year, I didn't really plan on joining a sorority. It was something that I had like a misconception about. So yeah, I didn't know much.
It was the same way with me. My cousin knew like some fraternity guys. She introduced me to a few houses here and a few of the guys. I thought they're pretty dope, but I didn't know that much about fraternity culture before I got here.
All right, so neither one of you knew a whole lot. So who inspired you to join, or what inspired you to join? Maybe talk about when you joined, at what point in your academic career, what attending recruitment events might have looked like, and any other things that might have influenced you to actually join these organizations that you're in.
So I joined my sophomore second semester, so about a year ago. And why I joined was because my roommates and I were actually all just like, oh, maybe we should start getting involved on campus. So we all went together to different councils and rush events. And then I personally felt like my organization was the one that I felt most comfortable with and most related to, like the whole philanthropy and then all our pillars and things like that. I also felt very comfortable with the sisters. I felt like they made me feel just, you know, good. So that's why I was influenced to join.
For me, I was super involved in high school. I was like doing ASB. I was president of multiple clubs, treasurer of multiple clubs. And I knew I wanted to be like part of an organization on campus, so that's why I went on and rushed. I rushed my freshman year, fall semester, so my first semester here. Well, when you're attending events back in the day before the pandemic, it was you would come to the house, you know, meet some brothers and everything. And I think the specific reason why I chose Beta was because when I came to all the events, like brothers here to remember my name, they'd remember like facts about me. You know, we'd just continue on the conversation versus like when I went to different houses, like it just seemed like no one really remembered anything. It wasn't really like personal. And I felt like a lot of the brothers here had their professionalism like on point and they were just down to share everything.
All right, great, thank you. So can you all tell us a little bit about some common perceptions, including partying and hazing? Yeah, share a little bit more about that. You know, what actually happens? What are your chapter's expectations or your organization's expectations? And what are the university's expectations around these things?
So what actually happens, and then just the chapter university is hazing is not tolerated. And I feel like my chapter also, like, we wouldn't want to treat anyone a way that we wouldn't want to be treated. And then at the end of the day, you are trying to join us and we want you to join us. So we just try to make everyone feel comfortable.
Like she said, Beta Theta, like the school has very strict policies on hazing, and as an organization, Beta Theta Pi is not a hazing fraternity. So no one is ever put in an uncomfortable position. And also with partying, I feel like the school has very strict guidelines on it. Like you have to be like registered for a party and everything. Something that we try to do here is that, you know, we have to make sure your grades are on point before you can go out to a party.
Thank you both for sharing. I think the reality, right, is that this is college, and so at some point there will be social and party scenes and events. Something we do want to share with everyone is that events don't just happen whenever they want. They do need to be registered. Particularly during pandemic and during this semester, there should be no events happening. But when they are able to occur, they are registered through our office. And so when they're registered, that means that when you arrive, you'd be able to check in via the SAMI app. So that's how you would know that an event was approved and scheduled to occur. And I think as both of them said, there are high expectations from both the organizations that we have on our campus as well as our university. And when there are allegations or things that need to be investigated, the university, particularly the Office of Student Conduct and Ethical Development, will work alongside the organization's staff and volunteers to make sure that an investigation occurs and figure out what happened so that it can be assessed appropriately. So thank you both. I know that that's a tough question. All right, a little bit on a lighter note for you. How has joining your chapter helped you get closer to any of your personal or educational goals? Particularly, how do you balance your fraternity and sorority life with things like academics, jobs, family, friends?
So the personal Sigma Alpha Theta helped me reach my personal goals just because, like I mentioned, I wasn't really involved on campus or really in high school either. I wasn't involved in like organizations. So coming here, I knew that I wanted to be a part of something. So I feel like it really pushed me out of my comfort zone. So that's like helped me gain personally. And then educationally, the professionalism really helped. Like I said, I wasn't the best student, like academically, but being in the sorority really helped me get on top of my stuff, you know, because I wanted to be in it. And then I wanted to be able to balance everything. And my sorority personally has like set times for things. I know we have academic hours, so that's already something that helps me balance my studies. And then my personal life is just separate.
Personally, I think that like for personal growth, I was pretty introverted in high school and everything. I think when I came here, I like learned a lot more about myself. I grew a lot more. The house is pretty diverse, so I'm learning like constantly about everyone's like culture and everything. We have a lot of different bros from different backgrounds. In terms of educational goals, I think I wouldn't be as far as I am like today in my major if it wasn't for people in this fraternity giving me advice on what classes to take, even professionally. Like I remember my like one of my mentors in this fraternity, he like sat me down, he helped me out with my resume, he gave me some networking tips, and also like we did like a mock interview and everything. I think it's like really great in terms of like the professionalism and that you will get out of this joining Greek life.
All right, so you talked a little bit about balance. What are your responsibilities as an active initiated member? And what is that going to look like this fall with online classes, virtual chapter meetings and events, and social distancing?
So even though things are online, we are still trying to have as many, basically like a normal fall semester that we would have. It's just virtual through Zoom. And at first it was a little more, different. It's different, but it's still the same because you're still with everyone that you're used to being around with. I know for us, we usually have our philanthropy month in October, which is domestic violence. And we usually have a week where we go out and table on 7th Street. And even though we're not able to do that physically, we're still going to be hosting events through Zoom, which is really fun. We're planning those now, so those should be fun. And then we have our 25-year anniversary this at the end of the semester. So even though again we won't be able to do in person, we're still planning to do something through Zoom.
So in terms of being an active and initiated member, we still do have weekly chapter meetings on Monday. They're a little bit different than they were before. We used to talk about business and events. Right now, we just talk about like what's going on with our week, how everyone's doing. We like to check up on our brothers here. Personally, I have I'm taking 16 units. I have a part-time internship, and I'm serving on 2 different councils, my own exec and the IFC. So I definitely think it's very time consuming, but I think it's worth it in the long term. Like I'm meeting a lot more people. Like the skills that I'm getting right now are definitely worth it.
Justin, did your group just have an anniversary milestone too?
Yes, we just got our 25th anniversary in March, but we're not able to celebrate it because it happened like right before the school shut down.
We went virtual, but yes,
We went
yeah.
virtual,
So
yeah.
things things do look super different, I think, as Maritza shared with you all. So things are happening, they're just happening differently. And I think you folks that start to join the organizations also help make what that experience looks like, as it is really different for groups that have been functioning in person to suddenly go online when they are social organizations. So it's definitely different, and we are encouraging you all to kind of be part of that process of helping to make that virtual experience be what it can be. All right, so I've got two more questions for you all, hopefully that you can answer, and then we will get to our Q&A questions that we have from our folks here that are with us. So something that we get asked a lot is, if you join Greek life, how long do you have to commit?
So my organization, we really say that once you become a sister, it's not like just your 4 years of college. It's something that goes way beyond that. It's not something you're forced to do, after you graduate, but everyone in our organization usually, they want to be more involved regardless having graduated already.
Our fraternity is the same way. We really think that like once you become a brother, you're a brother for life. There's like a lot of different resources that you can do after college. Like our fraternity hires people to become advisors. You go out to other chapters and see how they're doing, give them advice, like other kind of leadership opportunities, even after school.
Yes, and I think Kira and I shared the other day on our previous webinar too, that fraternity and sorority life has been a lifetime commitment for us, and we continue to pay dues to stay active, and it also brought us to a wonderful career that we otherwise might not have. Kira, I don't know if you want to add a little more to that too.
Yes, I will just add, like, you might be really shocked that there are a lot of people who join in college that continue to be active in their communities. There are some organizations that have graduate and alumni chapters, and they still do the same thing, events and service, and just are great leaders in the community. So yes, you can commit to an experience after college if you so choose to.
That was a good team effort. And then last question that we have on our list is, what is the most valuable thing that you have gotten from this experience in fraternity and sorority life that you would otherwise not have gotten from your college experience?
For me, I would say it's really just everything. I know my college experience would not be the same without joining Sigma Alpha Zeta. For example, like personally, like I said, I live far. I'm far from home, so I knew that coming here it was going to be lonely, and so I wanted to find a group of people that made me feel like this is my home, and it does now. And then academically, I gotten a lot of experience that I know I wouldn't have gotten otherwise, a lot of opportunities. I know I was able to be part of the AFLB, which is the Association of Fraternal Leadership and Values. It's a student conference where I was able to go to Indianapolis and connect and meet a lot of people from different Greek organizations all over the country, which is crazy to me because I know I wouldn't have done that otherwise.
I also feel the same way. I think like I could not imagine my college experience without, you know, being in this fraternity. I have like 30 or 40 like close friends that I know are gonna be like lifelong friends. And like also in PHC and IFC, you get like there's like a mentorship program, you know, big bro, little bro. My big bro, he graduated 3 years ago. We still talk about like how I should do projects and everything. He still gives me professional advice. I have 3 little bros, you know, I'm gonna be there for them forever. Like I really take it to heart. Also, the networking and professionalism here is unparalleled. Like being an engineer, I've messaged so many people from other schools, people from like Virginia Tech, MIT, all the people who are in the same fraternity as me are always down to like mentor me and give me advice and even refer me for some jobs.
Fantastic. Thank you, you all. And we're going to get into some questions. Hopefully some people will put some more questions in our Q&A feature. And so we'll jump into one right now. So one question that we've gotten is, how do you suggest a way for students to decide which organizations to join since we're not able to, and I assume, physically attend events? So maybe talk a little bit about expressing or showing interest in your organizations in a virtual space and what virtual events will happen.
So I know a lot of, I'm part of the USFC Council, and I know a lot of the organizations in there are having rush events right now. We usually start the first day of school and sometime next week. So you can, I know they also mentioned we're having USFC night. So that's a good way to go and see which organization you feel comfortable with. But I would suggest just going to, I know also other councils are having rush events. So attend as many different organizations of those as you want or as you're interested in. And then from there, you'll just feel which one is best for you.
I definitely recommend going out to like as many events as you can with as many houses as you can. We want to make sure that everyone like goes to the right house for them. You know, we don't want anyone like feeling that they should have went to some other house. I think something that's super important is just asking everyone like what their mission statement is and their like core values inside of the fraternity, and like ask them like how they feel about it specifically and how their house upholds those like traditions.
Great, thank you. All right, we just got another question, and I think this one is more directed towards Justin, but we'll all jump in after you answer, Justin. But this one's asking, how diverse and potentially inclusive are the fraternities and as well as your fraternity? So what does that look like in our community, with mostly across fraternities, but we'll kind of talk a little bit more after that.
I think all IFC fraternities, like it used to be back in the day, you know, it was just like white men and everything. But I think being part of a IFC fraternity right now is like super beneficial if you think about later on when you work in the workplace, like it's going to be very diverse and like you learn a little bit about like everyone's culture and everything here. Personally, I get along with like everybody here. I think we're super inclusive and I would like to keep it that way. I'm going to keep it that way. Like we also have some gay bros here. So that's like, that's never an issue. Like everyone's included here.
Yes, thank you, Justin. And if Vicky wants to chime in too, I think that because we have 3 councils that have fraternities in them, all of them are super diverse. And we talked a little bit about history beforehand, but I think that because we have a diverse demographic of students at SJSU, that also is reflected in our Greek life community. And no matter what your background is, racially, ethnically, sexual orientation, like you are open to joining any fraternity in any of our 3 councils. And so it is all about, people joining people, what people most are you attracted to in terms of like what the brotherhood looks like for that organization. And I think the sororities is the exact same way. So yeah, just find the organization that you feel like the culture fit is just what you're looking for.
Yes, I think for that question particularly too, I did pull up some stats from our spring 2020 in case folks are interested. This is just reviewing self-identified information that people may have shared. So for spring 2020 in particular, about 40% of our fraternity and sorority life members identified as Hispanic, 22% identified as white, and 21% identified as Asian. So those were the top 3 that I'll share with you all. So in some ways it is very similar to the demographics of the university. So again, we have a diverse campus, and so that does show up in the makeup of our students and the people that are in these organizations.
All right, I'm not seeing any more questions. If you all have any more questions, please drop them in the Q&A. But Vicki, do you have any questions for our panelists, or if there are any things that you didn't get a chance to share, Maritza or Justin, this is a good time to share.
Like I was saying before, with the whole like support system thing, I think like personally, I really like my house because of that. Like during finals and everything, I'm trying to relearn everything that I should have been learning, for 16 weeks and 3 weeks. And like, there's definitely brothers here that like check up on me. They even feed me to make sure I'm eating like during finals, because it's super stressful time for everyone here. And like, that's like the #1 thing I love about my fraternity. Like, I just love how much we care about each other here.
I was just gonna say, go to as many events as you can from different organizations so you can really see which one feels best for you. Because at the end, that's gonna be, where you spend the rest of your time in college. So, yeah.
Oh, okay, so I got another question. And I think all of us could potentially answer, but I'll leave it to you all. How do we know when a fraternity and sorority is having rush or recruitment events? So where can we find this information?
I know since everything is everyone is using Instagram a lot as a medium to share all the information we have. So I know SJSU Greeks has all the organizations on there. So maybe go there and then click on other organizations you like.
I feel the same way. I think IFC and PHC, they both post like specific events from like we also have other webinars just specifically for those councils. If you're interested in those, you can follow their like Instagrams. And I think if you look through like who they follow, like who IFC or PHC follows, they follow like different fraternities and whatnot. So you can go to their pages. If any of them look super interesting to you, you can follow them, and then they'll be posting like events on their stories.
Yeah, and I'll let Vicki chime in too, but if there are any particular organizations that you are uncertain about and aren't sure if they're having events or where to find them, or maybe if you're not involved on social media, you can always email me at kirataylor.sjsu, and also Vicki or our fraternity and sorority life email, or even our Get Involved email. We get all of them. So if you have any questions, you can always ask student involvement and we can point you in the right direction.
Yes, you took those words out of my mouth. I think on our website as well, we do have a councils page. So you will see that student involvement, Greek life, councils, you can go to each council, and every group should have their social media linked there as well. If anything is wrong, let us know. We will get in touch to make sure it's corrected. But we are pretty sure that at least the Instagrams are definitely there. And Instagram, I think, is the way most of the groups have been communicating actively. So that would be a great way to do that. Many of them have websites as well with like emails and folks to email. So whatever it is, like when in doubt, you are more than welcome to let us know what your concerns are and we can point you in the right direction. I am going to pop in the fraternity sorority email address to you all. I hope I spelled it right. But yes, those are great questions. Anything else from our Q&A, Kira?
Nothing at the moment. I think we've answered everyone.
All right, all right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. This is our 4th time doing this, so I think we are just like running out of breath too and trying to keep up with Zoom. So appreciate you all who joined us today. This was recorded, so we'll be able to post that out and share it with you all. Again, connect with us if you've got questions. We hope we were able to answer most things for you all today. Thank you to our panelists so much. Thank you, Maritza and Justin. Hopefully you all get to know them a little bit through your process as well. Wishing you all the best for the rest of this Thursday. Hope to see you soon.